Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Thursday evening, August 28, 2025. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you all like this video. I'd really appreciate it if you all get this video up to 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We all like the video and then the YouTube algorithm pushes the video out to more persons who are in the path of these tropical systems so that we can keep everyone safe, especially during the peak months of Atlantic hurricane season. That's August through to October. Share this video with your friends, your co-workers, your relatives, and even your church brethren, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Please ensure that you all utilize the progress bar that's located at the bottom of the video, as well as the timestamps that are located not only in the comment section but the video description, so that you can skip to the points in the video that you want to see the most in order to save time, because we know that the videos over here with the Jamaica can be very long. Leave a comment down below letting me know what the that's been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Taking a look at an expert insight here on X. This is actually Ben Noel. He is a global weather writer and meteorologist for the Washington Post, who from time to time makes some very accurate predictions about what's expected across the Atlantic in terms of tropical cyclone activity. And he made a post today stating people in hurricane prone areas like us here in Jamaica should use the current lull to prepare because it won't last. By mid to late September, a significant pulse of convection is forecast to develop over the Atlantic and Africa, raising storm risks. And he highlighted the velocity potential anomalies for the time periods that he mentioned, mid to late September. And we know the velocity potential anomalies basically show the oranges into the greens that represent sinking air, basically making it harder for all of these thunderstorms to become tropical depressions, if not tropical storms. But clearly, the greens into the blues. And that's what's expected to come into our neck of the woods by mid to late September, possibly increasing our chances of us getting more thunderstorms developing into tropical depressions, if not tropical storms. And we can see that. So we're at August 29 now. Tomorrow is the 29th. And as you can see, we can see the Caribbean right here, the main development region into Africa right here. And as of right now, a lot of sinking air into tomorrow and the weekend for sure. A lot of sinking air across the Atlantic in general. But going out in time, the week of September 6th, yes, we still have some sinking air across Africa, the Caribbean, the Atlantic, into the eastern to the central Pacific. But look at all of that rising air across the Indian Ocean into the Western Pacific. Interesting. What does it do by the week of September 14? Some of that pushes to the southern Indian Ocean into Australia, Indonesia. And look at that, we start to get in on some rising air across the Eastern Pacific, the Caribbean, and even the main development region. And then finally, by the week of September 22, we see that we're still getting in on some amount of rising air across Africa, the main development region, the Caribbean, into the Eastern Pacific. So it's going to be very interesting to see if we actually get some systems to formulate during all of that time period. So we have to stay updated to see exactly what unfolds. On another note, the U.S. National Hurricane Center has surprisingly highlighted something right here off the coast of Africa. Within the past 12 hours, we saw that they put up a code yellow and they've updated it. As of the latest update we see here, 7:29 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is actually 6:29 p.m. Jamaica time. We have something right here. It isn't really showing on the infrared as yet because it is still across Africa right over here. It's expected to push off into the sea. But we can see that the Atlantic isn't really looking that festive at all at this time, even although we're in the peak of hurricane season. But that could definitely change in the blink of an eye, so we have to stay updated to see exactly what unfolds. A few tropical waves across the intertropical convergence zone, the usual troughing and thunderstorm activity across the US into the open waters of the southwestern Atlantic, and some tropical waves across the western Caribbean into Central America. But if we focus our attention regarding this code yellow, let us reload it and read the very latest that they've stated. So the Hurricane Center has stated a tropical wave is forecast to emerge off the west coast of Africa on Sunday. Thereafter, environmental conditions could support some slow development of the system while it moves westward to west-northwestward at 15 to 20 miles per hour across the eastern and central tropical Atlantic next week. And we see that they've given the area a 0% chance of cyclone formation within the next 7 days and a 20% chance of cyclone formation within the next, well, a 0% chance within the next 2 days, a 20% chance within the next 7 days. And if it's going to be coming off of Africa within the next 3 days, so by Sunday, so we have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it definitely isn't this patch of clouds right here off the coast of Africa. It's definitely further east for sure. All of this pushing westward. So we'll see exactly what unfolds as time goes on. Either way, in terms of what the Euro and the GFS supercomputer model runs are showing within the next 168 hours, that's the next 7 days. We're looking at the time frame right here on the Euro. This is valid for 12Z on Thursday, September 4, so that's 7 a.m. We can actually see some moisture, and we see a red L embedded in some of that moisture. So could that be something trying to formulate right down in here by 7 a.m. on Thursday? And then the GFS is showing something down there too, but it's a bit more northwest of where the Euro has it. It's up in here. We'll say it actually plays out. We see some similarities but some differences as usual. Either way, something clearly is going to be trying to form. We see the moisture, we see the red L that represents maybe tropical depression status, if not low-end tropical storm status. We'll see how it actually goes. As of right now, it is looking like it might just be a fish storm and push northward, but we know these things go. Sometimes the high pressure ridge can be a bit too strong and send these entities more westward, so we have to stay updated to see exactly what will unfold. And we know that if something should form, the next name on the list after Fernand is Gabrielle. Taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening, there's actually a tropical wave right here across the central Caribbean. There's another tropical wave right here to the northeast of South America, and another tropical wave right here between the Cabo Verde Islands and Africa. All of these entities, as we know, are being steered from east to west, all courtesy of the ridge of high pressure to the north. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before we lost sunlight, we can make out some of these entities that we mentioned. So there's supposedly a tropical wave somewhere in here. We can definitely see the moisture across Hispaniola associated with that tropical wave. There's supposedly another tropical wave somewhere in here off the coast of Africa right in there. There's supposedly another tropical wave equidistant from Africa and the main development region, just like what the surface map showed right in here. Very interesting, and we can clearly see that all of these entities are being steered from east-west, all courtesy of the ridge of high pressure to the north. We will be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean weather later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Thursday, August 28, 2025. It was stated that rainfall could have been in the forecast for parts of some central and western parishes during Thursday afternoon. I know central parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, like St. Anne, St. Mary, Manchester, Clarendon, and St. Catherine. While western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. And what ended up happening? At around 2:05 p.m, the visible satellite images were posted not only here on our Twitter page over the Jamaica, but they were also posted on our Instagram page over the Jamaica, on our TikTok page over the Jamaica, and on our Facebook page over the Jamaica 876. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there as we make posts throughout the day that you can't afford to miss. So at around 2:05 p.m, it definitely highlighted some clouds, bring some isolated thunder showers to sections of St. James and Hanover. We see the clouds building up and pushing up towards west-northwest, and we see the sparkling yellow dots that we know represent some amount of lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes, to confirm that they indeed got now some thunderstorm activity. And at that time, we even highlighted the fact that some clouds were on their way to bring some amount of rainfall to section of St. Thomas. Look at those clouds quickly pushing in from the east, and we definitely had a brief isolated shower in my part of St. Thomas this afternoon, and I am indeed grateful. And even after this isolated shower, there was another shower right behind it that lashed portions of eastern St. Thomas for sure. They definitely got in, on some decent rainfall this afternoon, even although the rainfall was not predicted for the afternoon by the Euro and the GFS. So we're indeed grateful that we definitely got in on some rainfall to cool down the temperatures. We even had some isolated showers across sections of some northern parishes as well. And if we take a look at the infrared, we can confirm what took place. The thunderstorms across the western end of the island, all of these blues, greens, yellows, oranges, reds representing the cumulonimbus cloud cover, not to mention the sparkling white dust that we know represents some amount of lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes. We can also make out the brief isolated thunder shower that took place across sections of Trelawney, western St. Anne, and even the rainfall that took place across eastern portions of the island, St. Thomas. Definitely gotten on some amount of isolated thunder shower for sure. We can see those clouds being sheared off from northwest to southeast by that upper level wind shear, just as we stated it would. And we even have the Cuban Doppler radar to confirm all of this rainfall. Look at that rainfall across sections of St. James into Hanover during the afternoon, and look at that rainfall coming into portions of St. Thomas in the afternoon, sections of western St. Anne, section of Trelawney getting on that rainfall as well. The Doppler radar definitely confirming what we just saw on the satellite imagery for sure. We're glad that we have the Doppler radar to confirm all of this. It definitely gotten on some decent moderate to heavy rainfall like that across the northwest. We see the yellows into the oranges and reds. That represents some moderate to heavy rainfall for sure across those areas. And I'm sure that they're grateful for the little cool down. And if we take a look at the live camera here from See Jamaica's YouTube channel, this is downtown Kingston at around 4:51 p.m. As you can see here, 16:51, as you know, it's 4:51. We had people in their vehicles going about their business, people walking about, going about their business, the vendors doing their vending here and there. Nothing in the way of bad weather taking place across downtown Kingston at all today. And I would like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to see more live streams like this, just visit See Jamaica on YouTube. They have these live streams all for you all to view for free. So subscribe today so that you don't miss out. Taking a look at the total accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours from the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website. This map does indeed paint quite the picture of where we might have had that rainfall today across especially section of St. James into Hanover, section of Trelawney, western St. Anne, sections of St. Thomas, maybe into Portland as well. And we have just at least 2 comments here confirming what the weather is like from some of our followers. We have Latoya Taylor stating sun and breeze in her area. And we have Donna Williams 4085 stating hot, hot, hot. Alright, so let us reload the very latest still image from the Weather Nerds website. Let us reload the very latest image from the Met Services website showing the Doppler radar. Let us reload the very latest still image from the Cuban Doppler radar website, the Guantanamo Bay US Navy radar website, and the Cayman radar. Let's see what's happening right now. Alright, so the latest still image is showing 23:55 UTC, which is actually 6:55 p.m. So this just came out 5, 10, 15, 17 minutes ago. Right? Am I right? Yeah, 17 minutes ago, considering that it's 7:12 p.m. right now. As you can see, all of the clouds has, definitely dissipated. There's some leftover high cirrus clouds across the western end for sure in those whitish and bluish shades. Regarding the latest Doppler radar imagery now, this is showing 0000Z, which is actually 7 p.m. So this Doppler radar image just came out 13 minutes ago. And what do we actually see taking place right now? Let us zoom in a bit. I think there's a speck of rain somewhere right here across southwestern Manchester, far southeastern St. Elizabeth. Can someone confirm if you're actually in any of those areas? I wish we could see on the satellite imagery if this is actually true. We see some whitish shades. They could be getting rainfall. Maybe that's just a glitch. The Cuban Doppler radar glitched out, still showing August 18 into August 26. The Guantanamo Bay US Navy radar not showing much of anything here across the Guantanamo Bay area, but we do see some rain bands right here to the west of Guantanamo, the blues into the greens. Some light to moderate rainfall. We can also see some of that rainfall that section of Portland got in on this afternoon. And we can also make out some of that rainfall that portion of western Haiti got in on this afternoon as well. Blues into the greens into the yellows, light to moderate rainfall. The Cayman radar on the other hand, let's see if we can actually make out any rain bands down in here. Nope, I think it's off screen, so we're not seeing what the Jamaican Doppler radar just showed. But we can see some rain bands right here across section of central Cuba pushing southward. We can also see some rain bands right here to the west of the Cayman Islands. Alright, let's just see what's happening right now. The live camera here from C Jamaica's YouTube channel showing a very busy Bogwalk Gorge as usual. A lot of people in their vehicles going about their business. Conditions seem fair in terms of the weather. Nothing to do with bad weather taking place at this time at all, and that should be the order of the evening into the night. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see that we're 28 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 29 degrees Celsius in Kingston, and by about 4 a.m. on Friday, temperature should dip down to about 25 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 26 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is valid for 18Z on Friday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Friday. Look at Jamaica embedded in some oranges that represents maybe up to 2 degrees Celsius above normal temperature. And we know the normal temperature for the month of August across Jamaica is around 91 degrees Fahrenheit, and when that's converted to degrees Celsius that we use here in Jamaica, that's around 32.8 degrees Celsius. So we should be receiving anywhere from 32.8 to 34.8 degrees Celsius at most for Jamaica's temperature on Friday. And we have at least one maintenance outage advisor here from my JPS Online Twitter page that we have to highlight. I know that we have to highlight these because we know that when we have power outages somewhere across the island, it can definitely make the heat feel even worse because we don't have our fan or our AC to cool us down. So if you live or work in these areas, or if you have friends or relatives who live or work in these areas, please let them know that the power outage is coming their way on Friday, August 29, 2025. We're referring to Roselle in St. Thomas from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. So expect a power outage bright and early. And we have some tips right here to beat the heat as usual. It states here, seek shade when outside. Eat fresh, try eating cold foods such as salads and fruits. Rest, make sure you get enough sleep and rest if you're feeling tired. Soak, take a cool shower or bath to help you cool down. And I cannot stress enough the importance of staying hydrated throughout the day. Drink lots of water even if you're not thirsty, and put away those sugar drinks and drink water instead. Taking a look at the dry air map, we know that the dry air is represented by what we see here on the key on the bottom. That's the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those reds. And we can see some amount of dry air extending all the way from Africa across the main development region into the northern portion of North Atlantic. We know that the dry air is responsible for keeping the atmosphere stable, making it harder for it to rain. But we're liking that in terms of the Atlantic in general, we're seeing more blues across the Caribbean, across the Gulf, across the southwestern Atlantic, across the waters to the south and to the southwest of Central America, across the intertropical convergence. So you notice where we have the blues, that's where we have more of the grays that represents the cloud cover. And that's where you know that we have more of the moist air, more rainfall for sure. And that's what we want more of. More rainfall so that we get, more water in our pipes. But regarding the Saharan dust forecast for the next 3 days, so we're heading into August 29, August 30, and August 31. And as you can see, there should be some Saharan dust pushing into the Caribbean, but it's going to be more so on the southern side of the Caribbean, pushing from east to west, just to the south of Jamaica. Jamaica should be right here in the clear on August 29, August 30, as well as August 31. Some of that Saharan dust definitely still trailing through the central to the western Caribbean. And we hope it stays all the way to the south of us and doesn't lift northward at all, because the Saharan dust can cause hazy skies, not to mention trigger some amount of respiratory illnesses in some persons, asthma, sinusitis, you name it. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we can see that the highest waves across the Caribbean should be right here to the south of Jamaica, where we have those dark blues into the purples that represents maybe 2 to 2.5 meter wave height. And that's because of the strong easterly winds that are expected up to 20, maybe even up to 25 knot winds in the bright greens and the yellows, as we can see by the key on the bottom right. And if we zoom in on Jamaica's wave forecast for tomorrow for the fisher folk, Up to 1.2 meter wave height to the north of Portland, expected 1 meter wave height to the north of St. Anne. To the north of Hanover, 1 meter wave height. To the south of Westmoreland, 1.1 meter wave height. To the south of Clarendon, 1.4 meter wave height. To the south of St. Thomas, 1.5 meter wave height. And that's because of the winds that are expected. We clearly see more of an easterly flow for sure. Kind of looks like it's coming in from the southeast on the south coast. We see more of an easterly flow on the north coast for sure. If we zoom in on the winds, to 13 knots to the north of St. Anne, to the south of St. Thomas, 14 knots to the south of St. Elizabeth, 16 knots. And we also see that the least amount of winds should be right here. It looks like it's on the north coast in a way, all the way over to the western end. So that's where we see the blues that represent the least amount of wind. That's where, we could get in on some low level clouds becoming mid level rain clouds, if not upper level cumulonimbus clouds during the afternoon when we've had that daytime heating. So some diurnal convection could be in the forecast, and the upper level winds still seem to be coming in from the north tomorrow. So just like today, where when we had the thunderstorms during the afternoon, the cloud tops were being sheared off towards the south when we had the thunderstorms pushing from east-west. We could get in on something similar to that, not necessarily northwest to southeast like today, but more so northerly to southerly. Maybe bring some overcast skies, intersection of some southern parishes, since it looks like the rainfall could be across the north coast for sure. Just some overcast skies on the south. But the actual rainfall forecast maps here, this map from the Euro and this map from the GFS, are both showing 10 a.m. Eastern. Standard time is actually 9 a.m. And what do we see on both maps? We actually see the blues represent rainfall across the eastern end. We're talking about St. Thomas and Portland on both the Euro and the GFS. Even although the Euro is trying to incorporate portions of Clarendon into Manchester during the morning, I don't believe that for a second. More inclined to believe the GFS. Morning rainfall for the south, don't believe that one bit. But during the afternoon, and we've had that daytime heating, now we're seeing the differences. Now we're seeing the similarities. Euro showing rainfall across central and western parishes. I'm more inclined to believe the GFS with the rainfall across northern and western parishes, because that's where the air should be piling up. So we're expecting rainfall across maybe sections of Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, maybe section of St. Mary, getting in some of the action, maybe as far as West Portland and northern St. Andrew. We'll see it actually plays out. Even the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps here from the Euro and the GFS are in agreement that it's going to be raining somewhere in Jamaica within the next 24 hours. Both maps right here are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 3Z on Saturday, which is actually from now up until 10 p.m. on Friday. And we can definitely see the greens into the slight yellows that represents what we see here on the key on the right. Maybe up to 0.3 of an inch of rainfall. It could be more than that, it could be less than that, but clearly the brunt of tomorrow's rainfall on both maps should be across the far western end of the island. And we'll definitely take whatever we get, because we're in the month of August. And in Kingston, whose bar graph is being shown right at the top, we usually receive close to 100 millimeters of rainfall for the month. In Montego Bay, whose bar graph is being shown right at the bottom, we usually receive close to 5 inches of rainfall for the month. And I would like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to find out what your specific parish usually receives in terms of rainfall for the month of August or for the entire year, you can visit weatherandclimate.com, and that website to show you that information. And you can use this nice graphic right here that converts rainfall from inches to millimeters. We know that 1 inch of rainfall is about the same as 25 millimeters of rainfall. Alright. We're going to be looking at what the next 7 days have in store for us, according to the latest Euro and GFS supercomputer model runs that came out today. So keep your eyes focused on the timestamp right here at the top as we go to the next 168 hours. That stands for the next 7 days. Keep your eyes focused on Jamaica right here as we look for all of this that we see on the key on the right. That's the reds, the oranges, the yellows, and the greens that represents inches of rainfall. So let's see what's going to be taking place. Alright, so we're done with Friday now, so we're heading into Saturday. 12th on Saturday is actually 7 a.m. 7 a.m. on Friday, we actually see some greens represent some rainfall across the waters to our south and east. Interesting. What does the afternoon show? We see the greens that represent rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Saturday morning, looks like some rainfall is toward west. Saturday afternoon, rainfall across central and western parishes. What do we see on Sunday morning? On Sunday morning, not really seeing much of anything on the euro. Sunday afternoon, look at that, central and western parishes, some rainfall on the euro. What does the GFS show? Sunday morning, not really much of anything. Sunday afternoon, maybe some rainfall across central and western parishes. What do we see for Monday morning? Monday morning, maybe some isolated showers across the far eastern end. Monday afternoon, maybe some rainfall across some eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Do we have agreement with that? Monday morning, not really much of anything. Monday afternoon, maybe some rainfall across some eastern and central parishes. We'll see. We're also seeing a lot of moisture to the south of Mexico over there. So interesting. Could something be trying to formulate or trying to get its act together? We'll see what the Hurricane Center is stating about what's happening over that side of the world shortly. As we head into Tuesday morning, what do we see? Maybe some rainfall to the east of Jamaica on the euro. Tuesday afternoon, maybe some rainfall across some northern and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Tuesday morning, not really much of anything across Jamaica, maybe some rainfall to our southwest. Tuesday afternoon, maybe some rainfall across some northern and western parishes. And then we're heading into Wednesday morning. What do we see? On Wednesday morning, maybe some rainfall to our northeast. Wednesday afternoon, maybe some rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. And we're going to be stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours. So this is valid for Thursday, September 4. And we see some rainfall across the waters to our south, as well as across eastern parishes. What do we see on the GFS? GFS is showing some rainfall to our north, to our east. Then on Wednesday afternoon, what do we see? Rainfall across eastern, northern, and western parishes. And we're stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours as well. So this is valid for Thursday, September 4. Not really seeing much of anything across Jamaica on the GFS. Interesting, but we do see an abundance of moisture right here to the southwest of Central America. An abundance of moisture extending from Cuba all the way up into the Bahamas off the east coast of the US. We see that on both the euro and the GFS modes, especially on the GFS across sections of Florida into the Bahamas off the east coast of the US over there. We'll see it actually plays out either way in terms of the total accumulated precipitation for the next 7 days. Both maps right here from the euro and the GFS are in agreement that it should be raining anywhere from about 2 all the way up to maybe 5 inches of rainfall expected for portion of northern and South America into Central America as usual, where we see all of those dark reds into the purples and the pinks that represents the 2 to 5 inches of rainfall range. And we clearly see that the euro and the GFS modes are in agreement with that. The euro and the GFS modes are also in agreement that there could be an increase in the rainfall totals across section of Florida into Cuba and the Bahamas. We see those similar colors like what's across northern South America into Central America. But for the most part, across much of the basin, we're talking about from the Yucatan eastward, the Cayman Islands into the Greater Antilles and the Lesser Antilles, we're talking about those yellows into the oranges, and the rest represents at least up to 1 inch or less of rainfall over the next 7 days. But regarding Jamaica's rainfall totals for the next 7 days from now up until September 4, not really seeing much rainfall. We see the blues into the greens into the slight yellows. They represent anywhere from 1 millimeter all the way up to maybe 30 millimeters of rainfall. From the eastern end to the western end, the GFS showing the brunt of the rainfall over the next 7 days across the northern to the western end of the island in the greens, at least 50, maybe 20 to 25 millimeters of rainfall. We'll see it actually plays out, and whatever happens, I'll definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs. Alright, so that is it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So like the surface map said, there's supposedly a tropical wave crossing over the Dominican Republic into Haiti as we speak. We see some moisture over there. We can also see moisture associated with the tropical wave just in the northeast of South America. Definitely already bringing portions of northeastern South America into Trinidad and Tobago. Some moisture. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar imagery, what's taking place down here near Puerto Rico, we can actually see some rainfall across northeastern portion of the Dominican Republic. Some rainfall across central Puerto Rico. A lot of rainfall in and around Antigua and Barbuda, St. John, sections of Guadeloupe, Dominica getting some amount of rainfall. And we can see where northwestern Puerto Rico definitely had, some strong rainfall today. We see the yellows into the oranges. Look at the Barbados radar showing some rainfall pushing in from the east northeast. A lot of hit or miss isolated showers here and there into the blues and the greens. We see some of that pushing into section of Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, section of Trinidad and Tobago getting in some of the moisture as well, and more of that still to come tonight into tomorrow. Regarding the weather, we have Doppler their images. We can see some rainfall right here across section of Florida, southern portion of Cuba, section of the Yucatan, northern Guatemala into section of Belize. Well, more of that rainfall is to the east of Belize, but we do see some rainfall right here across section of northwestern Venezuela, well, northwestern Honduras, northeastern Venezuela getting on some rainfall as well. And regarding where the rainfall is expected within the next 24 hours, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are adamant that within the next 24 hours, there should be some amount of rainfall across sections of Florida, the northern Bahamas, section of Cuba, section of Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, section of the Leeward Islands, Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, section of Guyana, Suriname, French Guiana, Venezuela, section of Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Belize, the Yucatan Peninsula, getting in on some of that rainfall. Even section of the Cayman Islands getting in on some isolated shores. We can clearly see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in agreement with this forecast. And we know that when they're in agreement like this, the chances are higher for it to actually take place. Alright, so we're going to be looking at what's taking place across the Eastern Pacific. If we reload this, we can see that as of their latest update that just came out at 4:31 p.m. we have both a code red and a code orange, so something that has a high 80% chance of cyclone formation within the next 7 days as it pushes towards the west northwest, and another entity right here just to the east of that one, closer to Mexico. It has a 50% chance of cyclone formation within the next 7 days. As of right now, we're seeing some moisture right here just to the southwest of Mexico. Nothing really organized right now, but it's getting there. We know that the next names on the list after Juliet are Kiko and Lorena, so let's see if we actually get those to form. However, on the Western Pacific side of things, we're still watching the now newly upgraded tropical depression number 20. And yesterday, I believe it was a code yellow, so I'm shocked that it upgraded this quickly. It's just right here to the south of China, to the west of the Philippines, to the east of Vietnam. Boy, Vietnamese waters have been boiling. And look at the thunderstorms, deep convection associated with it. Looks like it's already pushing westward into Vietnam. I mean, they literally just got a system almost the same track. Look at this. It's now packing winds of 30 knots. So that would make it definitely a tropical depression. We know they use knots over this side of the world. Boy, if you have friends or relatives in Vietnam, they're basically getting in another dose of rainfall. Basically the same spot that we had that other system. Was that Kajiki was the name, if I'm not mistaken? Or am I referring to another system before that? Either way, clearly it's going to be increasing in intensity 35, 40 knots. And we know that the intensity forecast isn't their strong suit. So who knows, maybe tomorrow it's a category 1 hurricane, even although they're forecasting tropical storm intensity. We'll see it actually plays out. And I'll definitely be here to keep you posted if it occurs. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.